Like multiplying by 2, it's quite easy to do. Take a number and then you double it. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2, that equals 4. 2 times 3.
All right, guys, welcome to Thursday, April 30th. We are to that final video of the week, so we're almost there. We're doing multiplication, but today it's going to be 2-digit by 2-digit. So we're just kind of adding in 2 numbers to the tens place and multiplying instead of that 1 digit that we did the day before. We're going to be using both those strategies of area model and partial product, so no switches on that. We're just going to be having, like I said, 2-digit by 2-digit. So same game, but just you got to focus with those place values like we have been. I decided that with our word problems kind of in your packet, the ones in the rest are going towards fractions, and I really don't want to throw that in right now when we're working on multiplication. So I'm going to work through that word problem of the week with Mr. Taylor and just kind of give you the break and have you focus on those 2 strategies for multiplication instead of throwing something in there just to throw it in. I want it to be purposeful, so I'm just going to keep it how it is. You can take it as a break. You're welcome. But just go on Imagine Math. Do something like that with your extra time if you have some in those 30 minutes if you're done early. For reading, you are going to be doing that activity for the Cumbia article that I read you yesterday. And of course, Epic or AR reading for 30 minutes a day. And I will be adding that second part of chapter 6 because the chapters are getting long. I kept one together that was 40-ish minutes, but I think it might be smarter to try to keep it around 20 a day for more realistic kind of listening. So I'm going to kind of break it apart in what I would see as one kind of sitting down and listening attempt. So that being said, I'm going to finish up that chapter on platform 9 3/4. And of course, moving to the last part, always every day, is power writing with day 13. All right, guys, let's.
Somebody once asked me to quickly say my facts. 3s. I said no sweat, I know 3s by heart.
All right, so for today's task, we're going to be doing multiplication by 2-digit. When it says by 2 digits, it's literally what you think. Digit is a number, 1 to 9, so 2-digit means you have 2 numbers from 1 to 9, which would mean these numbers are in the tens place. So as you see, you're going to have 92 times 43, 2 numbers that are 2-digit numbers. So you're just going to be adding a couple more steps, needing a little bit more room on that paper, but the name of the game and your strategies of area model and partial product are not changing in any way. So I'll walk you through that when we get there, but just so you know, Thursday, April 30th is what you're clicking on Google Classroom, and the form is ready and open for you to go ahead and get started if you're on those cell phones. All right, guys, let's start with our vocab. Important vocab for today, as I told you, never going away. Place value. It's the numerical value that a digit has determined by its position or place in a number. So again, today it said double digit, 2 digits. All right, so now we're just going to have to be cognizant not just of a digit in one place value, but now we're dealing with a number that is 2 digits. So we need to be cognizant of at least two place values when we're doing this multiplication. As we know, multiplication, you're going to be getting bigger numbers. So you can bet that if you're starting over here, your number is going to not get smaller, but bigger. So you probably are going to be seeing some of these bigger place values. That's just something to keep in mind and be open to your chart growing, since you know multiplication should get bigger. And of course, we're keeping our multiplication because that is the operation we are using. Multiplication, you call the 2 numbers that you're multiplying factors. So both our factors today have 2 digits. And when you use multiplication and you find the solution or the answer, you call it a product. So if I ask you to find a product, your head, your alarms, whatever it means to you, should go off and tell you multiplication is the operation you are going to be using. Now again, area model is going to be one strategy I will show you today. and it is that concept behind a model for multiplication and division problems that relates to rectangular arrays to area. So as the model, the strategy directly tells you area model, you're going to start thinking area. Area is what? The inside. It's not the perimeter. It's the inside, how much you have, how much carpet is in the classroom, all those type of things that we've used for area and perimeter should start coming back to you, but now you're going to be using it in a rectangular array. So it's being flexible with that knowledge, applying it, and now using it to help us solve. Second model is partial product. So it looks a lot like the standard algorithm, but you're going to be doing that step of having partial products, so taking a part and getting those products partially and adding them together. So standard algorithm, you would kind of take this part out and just start multiplying away like some of your parents might have learned. I know that's what I learned in school, but we're being cognizant of the strategy and that we're taking it part by part and then adding it together to get the final product. So this part is that partial product part of the strategy that you want to keep in and practice.
So what's next? Are you ready to start? Well, next to double and it's really no trouble. 3 times 2 makes 6 big bubbles. 3 times 3 is a fact real fine. Multiply and you'll find that the answer's 9. Now 3 times 4, look through the door.
So you're going to be doing, just like yesterday, one problem, and it's going to be an area model first, and then we'll do partial product. There's no right order to do it with. I do both, and then I match to see if my answers are the same, and that kind of shows you, okay, I'm on the right track, I got it. And if they're different, then you kind of go back and go, where did I go wrong? What's missing? And one of the strategies or the other. Am I totally off? That's kind of the mathematician brain has to come in for you there. Fingers crossed, we just do it right the first time. And when it matches, we're all good to go. So when you start with area model, you have 23 times 87. And I say, draw a square. You know area model, you're going to be working with a square, a rec, whatever that kind of square shape looks like for you, draw it, get it down. Now, the next step is you put each of your factors, which remember a factor is what we multiply to get a product. So this is a factor, 23, and 87 is a factor. You have to put your factors in expanded form so we can set up our area model over here. So how do you expand the number 23? Now that's going to take you back to what we learned last week with place values. So now you are going to take apart by the ones and the tens. So I gave you those 2 little dashes there to kind of symbolize for you and adding it together. So I want to give you a chance and then we will talk about it. Go ahead. All right. The hope is after you paused, you're back with us and you got 20. And if you know we got 20 here in the tens, we started there. 2 in the tens means 20 plus, what do we got in the ones? 3. We just expanded our number. 20 plus 3, 23. That's on our one side. Now we need to fill out this side before we can start multiplying and finding that and using that area model. So we have to do the same thing for 87. Take it apart by its tens. We're expanding it. And what are we going to get? Go ahead and try it, pause, and then hit play when you're ready to see and check your work. All right, we got 80, and see 80 goes up here, plus 7. All right, so we expanded both of our factors and our model is ready to go. Now, this is where the operation comes from, and this is where our work for multiplying 2-digit in our area model comes to play. This is it. Now you have to start multiplying for the area. Area is length times width. So you have to do this for each of your boxes, which is the use of the area model. So we are going to start and focus on 80 times 20. So your job now is to go, what is 80 times 20? And you are going to get 1,600. How did I get that? Well, you can use the strategy and go, Miss Princell, I know that. That's easy. 8 times 2 is 16, and I added 2 zeros. It's just what it does. Does Miss Princell like when you use that example? Can you write that on a test? No, you don't memorize a rule like that and just throw it in there. You need to understand the place value behind it. If you wrote 8 tens times 2 tens, and you multiplied that, you would get 16 tens? 16 hundreds, because you had tens times tens, which is where you guys get that zero idea in, and you end up with 16 hundreds. And 16 hundreds is 1,600. Now this comes back to us just knowing our multiplication, and today's really about that model of getting that strategy through. So if it freaks you out, if you don't know, you just know with practice, you'll be able to start seeing these patterns. You'll also understand with place value what makes sense. You're not going to put in there 16. If you have $80 and give it to 20 different people over and over, $80 for you, $80 for you, $80 for you, you know, you have far more than 16. 16 ain't going to be your answer. 8 times 2 isn't going to do it. Is 160? Well, 80 to one person, 80 to two people. I'm already at 160. So you start to know, yeah, that is right. 1,600. That would make sense if I stood in line and gave 20 people $80. That would be the amount that I would have. That's close to it. Wouldn't be 16,000. That's way too much. You have to start using that mathematical reasoning that makes sense, that makes numbers make sense. Like we tell you all the time, does it make sense? And that's a lot of what you have to use with these to kind of understand, and you're not going to sit there and repeatedly add on your paper 80 plus 80 plus that would be very, very a long process with a lot of possible errors. So you want to use what you know with your facts of 8 times 2, but then you got to start figuring out, not just, my goal of this is for you not just to say 2 zeros and add the 2 zeros. Yeah, sure. But you want to understand those different things I just kind of told you, those different examples to justify why. All right, let's go. Now you move on to the next one. 3 times 80. Go ahead and try it yourself. You get 240. This one would be an easy one to do repeated addition. You could do 80 plus 80 plus 80 to check your work of knowing 3 times 8 is 24. You can do that sneaky, add the 0, but you can justify it by going 80 plus 80, 160 plus, 240. That's correct. That's what I want your brain doing, checking your work and moving on. 20 times 7. Go ahead, try it. You get 140. Again, you would know 2 times 7 is 14, and you could say add the 0, but you're not just going to do that. You're going to sit there and go, well, 2 tens times 7, 2 tens is 14 tens. 14 tens is, it's not 14. Oh, it's 114. Process, guys. Think them through, process, and make sure it sounds, looks correct. And finally, 3 times 7 is one of those facts that we memorized in 3rd grade. 21. Now, with this strategy, your job now is to add up all of these smaller products that you got for the area. So you're going to come over here and you're going to add them all up to find out what is the product for 23 times 87. So you have 1,600 from right here, 240, 140, and 21. And you're supposed to add them up. Now, if you remember from last week, when you are adding, you start in the ones place. So that's where we're going to begin, as we always do when we add. And 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 1 is 1, 1. So 1 in the ones place. You're going to move over to the tens. 4 plus 4 plus 2. And why is it a 0? Miss Princell, that's not a 0. 10, which means you have to bundle and move your 1, carry your 1 to your hundreds place. So now you have 1 in the hundreds plus 6 plus 2 plus 1. Why is it a 0? Because again, you got 10, so you put a 0 and you carry your 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, and you should get 2001.
3 times 5 is 15. I'm a multiplication machine. Hey now, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and 27, and 30. Gotta skip counting.
All right, our second strategy we are going to be using, and yes, it is the same problem. So you can say, Ms. Princell, we already found the answer. Yes, I know. But it's the idea that we are practicing those strategies, and also the idea that on a test, in life in general, you're going to be able to use these different strategies. So then check your own work so that you're not coming to Ms. Princell asking, am I right? Or entering it into the phone and saying, am I right? You're able to sit there and know you are right based on your own knowledge and what you know and your own reasoning. That's like the major hope, guys, that you and yourself can walk away from a problem confident and not needing a Google form or Miss Princell to give you a nice little thumbs up. Of course, those are nice, but you want to be able to know yourself. And a way to do that is through doing multiple strategies to check your own work. So that's what we're going to do. So the first step, on the last strategy, it was draw the square. This one is stack. If your numbers do not come pre-stacked meaning looking like it does over here, you know your place value and you're going to stack them by their place value, meaning the ones on top of the ones and the tens on top of the tens. If it's a big number like millions, you do the same thing, but you're stacking by place value. You don't stack them crooked, stack them weird. You stack them by their place value in the chart. All right. Here we go. So we stacked, we have our ones together, and we have our tens. Purple is going to be our ones for this model, and orange is going to be tens, just to kind of help your eyes, help you follow. So our first step with partial product strategy is you're going to start down here with your ones place, which is a 7. 87 has 7 ones, and you are going to multiply with 3 ones. So the ones right here, you're not going to get lost. You're not going to get confused because you're saying, but it's 23, Miss Princell. It's 87. Remember, partial products, we are taking it by parts. So 7 times 3 ones. I put those numbers in purple, just so you guys know where I got them, what's going on. So now your job is to actually multiply them. So what is 7 ones times 3 ones? That is all you're focused on. Pause and put that in, and you're going to put it right here below. Remember, whatever number it is, line it up by its place value. Go ahead. Alrighty. Your answer should have been 21. And why on earth is my 2 in orange? Because my answer is 21. That means I have 2 tens, 20, and 1. 1 in my ones, 21. And I am not done. I now move on. I'm going to be doing 7 ones times 2, and my 2 is in orange because it's not a 2. It's a 2, yes, digit, but it's 2 tens. So that changes your answer that you're going to get right now when you try it on your own. You're multiplying now 7 ones times 2 tens, not 2. Go ahead. Your answer should be 140. And you're going to go, wait, why? Well, if you had 7 ones times 2 ones, you would get 14. So you know for sure, if you're getting 2 tens, there is no way you are going to get what you would get if you multiplied once. It's just, I mean, come on. 20 tens 7 times. 20 to you, 20 to you, 20 to you. I mean, think about that adding up in your head. Draw that out. I mean, that is a much bigger number than 14. Now, 104D, let's make sense of that. 7 times 2 is 14. What's ones times 10? That would be 14 tens. Oh, and 14 tens is 140. Yep, I am correct. And that 1 needs to go in the hundredths place. So we added that in, and that's going to be in red. So keep track of those place values because that's very important for that last step of adding it together. We need to make sure everything's in line and in the right place value. All right, next step. We are going to do 8, but what is my 8? 8 tens times 3, and what is my 3 again? 3 is in the ones place. And voila, that was a quick little switch, but you know what? It will just be a gift to you. 810 times 3 ones, and I didn't even have you pause it. You're welcome. It's like it would be in class. I'll give it to you. 240. Now, again, you're going to go, huh? Well, you're multiplying 8 tens times 3 ones. So 8 times 3, yeah, 24, but you're dealing with 80 times 3. 80 plus 80 plus 80, 240. Tens times 1, tens. Okay? 24 tens. Next step. 8 tens, and what is the only one we haven't done? We've done 3 ones times 3 ones times 7 ones, 7 ones times 2 tens, 8 ones, 8 10 times 3 ones, and now 8 tens times 2 tens. This is our biggest answer because it's tens times tens. So we have 80 times 20, and go ahead and pause and get your answer. All right, and you get 1,600. So we are going to have to put in that thousands place like we haven't before because we haven't gone there, but there's no problem with that. You're knowledgeable that 0 is going to go in the ones, 0 in the tens, 6 in the hundreds, and yep, I got a 1 for my thousands columns. That is completely fine. There's no problem with that. Just make sure you remain lining them up and keeping your place value chart correct. All right, now you got to add. So we're going to go 1 plus 0, 0, 0. We get a 1 in the ones. Then 2 plus 4, and you get a 0. And it says to pay attention because you have 10 tens. So is it a 0? Absolutely not. It is not a 0. It is regrouping because you cannot have tens thrown into that chart, just like we talked about earlier this week. When you have tens, you have to move to the next column, regroup, and you get a 1 in the hundreds. So now you're going to add 100, and pay attention again, 100 plus 100 plus 200 plus 600, you get 10 hundreds. What are you going to do? Are you going to put a 0 there? Are you going to put a 10 there? You can't. You're going to put your 0 because you regrouped your tens and it becomes a 1 in the thousands. 1,000 plus 1,000 is 2,000. And we get the exact same answer product as we did with our area model, 2,001. And let me go back. Magic show. 2,001. Our answers match and we are ready to put it onto our paper because we know our answer is valid or correct. All right, good luck, guys. Please use both your strategies and please do not be scared to use multiple sheets of paper. Make it big. Make sure your place value charts are there and alive and well to keep you guys on the right track.
Somebody once asked me to quickly say my facts. Threes. I said no sweat.
Of the week, if you were there for the kind of schedule introduction, typically you get a part A, part B question, but the ones that are in your packets really start going into more fractions and not really the multiplication topics that we're on right now. So I don't just want to throw that in just because I want you to do a part A, part B question. I want to keep those for when we get to I get to teaching that to kind of throw those in at you. So that means good for you. Second means more time for you to go log on to Imagine Math, even just take out a sheet of paper, do some math facts. I mean, get creative, but just know that we're just going to extend this problem of the week to be actually the full week, unlike what we've done the last 2-3 weeks. So yay. Today I'll go over it and I'm going to leave that equation box empty so that tomorrow I can release all the answers to you in that private video that's not listed on YouTube because I don't want the answers floating out there, especially for next year's kids and all that. But in that video, the final answers will be up. All right, that being said, the last time we talked about this problem, we left off here. I left you here at this point that I gave you this model that had 11 guests, and we said, wait, but it's not 11 guests, it's 11 guests and Mr. Taylor. So Mr. Taylor was in red, and it was that aha moment that was supposed to kind of put you back on the right track in case you got tricked by the wording, that you knew you're dealing with 12 guests, because that completely changes your answer. Why? You'll see. So that being said, each guest is getting 3 hot dogs. That's what he's planning for. Now he's trying to get the buns for those hot dogs, those 3 hot dogs for each guest, and we have 12 circles, 12 people we're dealing with. So with that, your model should come and say, okay, I got 3 for each of those 12 guests. So over here, it was just, I showed you there should be 3, but your model needs to represent that. So you need to have 3 hot dogs, however you want to do that in your model, because your model is yours. 12 guests, 3 hot dogs for each. Next step is buns come in packs of 8. This is where the 4th grade fun comes in. I say 4th grade fun because it requires that multi-step. So it's not asking you to stop here and go, okay, 3 hot dogs for each guest, the end. No. Now it's saying, great, you got that answer, but now you got to use that answer to answer the question you're looking for, which is, how many packs of buns should Mr. Taylor purchase for his cookout? How many packs of buns? Okay, loaded question. Let's break it down. So we're going to go back to our race strategy and no, let's turn that into, what is our answer going to sound like? We're looking for Mr. Taylor to purchase some number, blank packs of buns for his cookout. That's our goal. So let's look at our model, and now let's do some math work to get to that goal, to find out what number of packs I can tell him to go get at Ralph's. So first step is, you want to come over here and know that 12 guests times 3 hot dogs is going to get you 36 hot dogs. If you sat here and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you know 9's in this row, and there's how many in the column, and how many of these are there? So there's 9 plus another 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus another row of 9 is 27, plus another row is 36. There's multiple ways for you to find out, but you find out that you are dealing with purchasing 36 hot dogs. Why is that important? Why does hot dogs matter? Because buns go on the hot dogs. So you have 36, and now you have to use your 36 and divide by 8. Why did Miss Princell divide? Well, she needs to find out how many hot dogs are going in the buns. Meaning, I could look at it this way and go crossing out and say, okay, 8 buns in a pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, up to this many hot dogs, 8 hot dogs. Every 8, I buy 1 pack. So that's 1 pack. Then you would go to your second pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's your second pack, and you could keep going like that. Or you could know, all right, I'm going to divide, and that will give me my answer. That will give me how many packs I need. So how many packs do you need? You need 8 times 2, 8 times 3, 8 times 4. 8 times 5 is 40. Now, why on earth is 40 in this at all? Well, I can't leave out hot dogs. I can't have a couple hot dogs without a bun. So if I only buy 4 packs of 8 buns, I'm going to get 32 hot dogs with buns. How many hot dogs do I have? I have 36. So I have to go up to the next one because I'm going to be short 4 buns for my hot dogs. I need to go to 8 times 5, which is 40. Will I have 4 extra buns? Yes, but all 12 of my guests will be able to get 13 hot dogs that have buns. So when you come back here, you're going to have to say Mr. Taylor should purchase 5 packs of buns for his cookout, because all 36 will be able to be taken care of. 8 times 5, 8 buns times 5 packs, 5 packs of it is 40. 40 buns will take care of the job, not 32 with 4 packs. All right, I hope that helped. Tomorrow, I'll be releasing the exact equation in its fancy form. This one's just kind of that math work that you would have on your paper to go along with your model. Yes, they're similar, but there is a way to write it in a more condensed way in that box.
Let's find the main idea. First thing you've got to do is read. Don't stop until you've read the entire thing. Then go back, reread the beginning and end. And of course, don't forget the title. You've got to read the title. Now ask yourself, what point's the author making? What is the big takeaway? In every text you read, you must read close to see the most.
We're on our Achieve activity today for Thursday. It's your second Achieve of the week, and it's on Cumbia. So you want to go back into your packet and go ahead and look for that cause and effect chart that kind of lets you know in the direction you're going and where you are in your packet. I want you to annotate and make sure you're using notes if you have it on paper. If you're online, go ahead and click here and continue your notes online. Make sure if you want a refresher or a second or third read that you can go back to yesterday's video. Just type in Miss Princell Distant Learning on YouTube and it will pop up and you can get that reread to you before you head into that activity. Make sure you're using that text evidence. And tomorrow for that Friday video, I will put out the answers for the paper version, but know that it's not publicly posted. It'll be just posted on Dojo for you to click into and your parents to give you to check your work. So try your best, be careful readers, and annotate and use process of elimination if it's too confusing, guys. At least narrow it down to a couple, get those ones that are funky and funny and no way they're correct out of the game early on when you're answering these questions. All right, guys.
Got to do is read. Don't stop until you've read the entire thing. Then go back, reread the beginning and end. And of course, don't forget the title. You've got to read the title. Now ask yourself, what point's the author making? What is the big takeaway?
Right. Today for Power Writing, we're on number 13, and it says, if you could be on any game show, what would it be? Describe what happens when you're on the show. So, game shows. That is a very broad topic. I want you to think there are game shows like Family Feud. There's Jeopardy, like we've played in class for a review. There's what? The Price is Right. There's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I'm sure you guys know of game shows that I've maybe never seen or heard of. So, yes, a game show. Which one would you want to be on? Go be a Ninja Warrior. I mean, that'd be fun. So, I mean, the really endless list goes on and on and on. You choose which game show you want, and then once you pick that show, bring it to life through your writing. Submit it on Google Classroom or through the forums, or of course, write it down in that paper packet that you have. All of that is a-okay. Get creative, guys. Have fun. Bye. Curry grass, coffee, sardine, and was even brave enough to nibble the end of a funny gray one Ron wouldn't touch, which turned out to be Pepper. The countryside, now flying past the window, was becoming wilder. The neat fields had gone. Now there were woods, twisting rivers, and dark green hills. There was a knock on the door of their compartment, and the round-faced boy Harry had passed on the platform 9 3/4 came in. He looked tearful. "Sorry," he said, "but have you seen a toad at all?" When they shook their heads, he wailed, "I've lost him! He keeps getting away from me!" "He'll turn up," said Harry. "Yes," said the boy miserably. "Well, if you see him—" He left. "Don't know why he's so bothered," said Ron. "If I'd brought a toad, I'd lose it as quick as I could. Mind you, I brought Scabbers, so I can't talk." The rat was still snoozing on Ron's lap. "He might have died, and you wouldn't know the difference," said Ron in disgust. "I tried to turn him yellow yesterday to make him more interesting, but the spell didn't work. I'll show you. Look." He rummaged around in his trunk and pulled out a very battered-looking wand. It was chipped in places, and something white was glinting at the end. Unicorn hair nearly poking out. Anyway, he had just raised his wand when the compartment door slid open again. The toadless boy was back, but this time he had a girl with him. She was already wearing her new Hogwarts robe. "Has anyone seen a toad? Neville's lost one," she said. She had a bossy sort of voice, lots of bushy brown hair, and rather large front teeth. "We've already told him we haven't seen it." said Ron, but the girl wasn't listening. She was looking at the wand in his hand. Oh, are you doing magic? Let's see it then. She sat down. Ron looked taken aback. All right. He cleared his throat. Sunshine, daisies, buttermellow, turn this stupid fat rat yellow. He waved his wand, but nothing happened. Scabbers stayed gray and fast asleep. Are you sure that's a real spell? Said the girl. Well, it's not very good, is it? I've tried a few simple spells just for practice, and it's all worked out for me. Nobody in my family's magic at all. It was ever such a surprise when I got my letter, but I was ever so pleased, of course. I mean, it's the very best school of witchcraft there is, I've heard. I've learned all our course books by heart, of course. I just hope it will be enough. I'm Hermione Granger, by the way. Who are you? She said all this very fast. Harry looked at Ron and was relieved to see by his stunned face that he hadn't learned all the course books by heart either. I'm Ron Weasley, Ron muttered. Harry Potter, said Harry. Are you really? Said Hermione. I know all about you, of course. I got a few extra books for background reading, and you're in the modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Am I? Said Harry, feeling dazed. Goodness, didn't know. I'd have found out everything I could if it was me, said Hermione. Do either of you know what house she'll be in? I've been asking around, and I hope I'm in Gryffindor. It sounds by far the best. I hear Dumbledore himself was in it, but I suppose Ravenclaw wouldn't be too bad. Anyway, we better go back and look for Neville's toad. You two had better change, you know. I expect we'll be there soon. And she left, taking the toadless boy with her. Whatever house I'm in, I hope she's not in it, said Ron. He threw his wand back into his trunk. Stupid spell. George gave it to me. Bet he knew it was a dud. What house are your brothers in? Asked Harry. Gryffindor, said Ron. Gloom seemed to be setting on him again. Mom and Dad were in it too. I don't know what they'll say if I'm not. I don't suppose Ravenclaw would be too bad, but imagine if they put me in Slytherin. That's the house you know who was in. Yeah, said Ron. He flopped back into his seat, looking depressed. You know, I think the ends of Scabbers' whiskers are a bit lighter, said Harry, trying to make Ron's mind off houses. So what do your oldest brothers do now that they've left anyway? Harry was wondered what a wizard did once he finished school. Charlie's in Romania studying dragons, and Bill's in Africa doing something for Gringotts, said Ron. Did you hear about Gringotts? It's been all over the Daily Prophet, but I don't suppose you get that with the Muggles. Someone tried to rob a high-security vault. Harry stared. Really? What happened to him? Nothing. That's why it's such big news. They haven't been caught. My dad says it must have been a powerful dark wizard to get round Gringotts, but they don't think they took anything. That's what's odd. Of course, everyone gets scared when something like this happens, in case you know who is behind it. Harry turned this news over in his mind. He was starting to get a prickle of fear every time you know who was mentioned. He supposed this was all part of entering the magical world, but it had been a lot more comfortable saying Voldemort without worrying. What's your Quidditch team? Ron asked. I don't know any, Harry confessed. What? Ron said, dumbfounded. Oh, you wait. It's the best game in the world. And he was off, explaining all about the 4 balls, the positions of the 7 players, describing famous games he'd been to with his brothers, and the broomstick he'd like to get if he had the money. He was just taking Harry through the finer points of the game when the compartment doors slid open yet again. But it wasn't Neville, the toadless boy, or Hermione Granger this time. 3 boys entered, and Harry recognized the middle one at once. It was the pale boy from Madame Malkin's robe shop. He was looking at Harry with a lot of interest than he'd shown back in Diagon Alley. Is it true, he said. They're saying all down the train that Harry Potter's in this compartment. So it's you, is it? Yes, said Harry. He was looking at the other boys. Both of them were thickest and looked extremely mean. Standing on either side of the pale boy, they looked like bodyguards. Oh, this is Crabby, and this is Goyle, said the pale looking boy carelessly, noticing where Harry was looking. And my name, Malfoy. Draco Malfoy. Ron gave a slight cough, which might have been hiding a snigger. Draco Malfoy looked at him. Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask who you are. My father told me. All the Weasleys have red hair, freckles, and more children than they can afford. He turned back to Harry. You'll soon find out some wizarding families are much better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there. He held out his hand to shake Harry's, but Harry didn't take it. I think I can tell who the wrong sort are for myself. Thanks, he said coolly. Draco Malfoy didn't go red, but a pink tinge appeared in his pale cheeks. I'd be careful if I were you, Potter, he said slowly. Unless you're a bit politer, you'll go the same way as your parents. They didn't know what was good for them either. You hang around with riffraff like the Weasleys and that Hagrid, and it'll rub off on you. Both Harry and Ron stood up. Say that again, Ron said, his face as red as his hair. Oh, you're going to fight us, are you? Malfoy sneered. Unless you get out now, said Harry more bravely. Then he felt because Crabbe and Goyle were a lot bigger than him and Ron. But we don't feel like leaving, do we, boys? We've eaten all our food, and you still seem to have some. Goyle reached towards the chocolate frog next to Ron. Ron leapt forward, but before he'd so much as touched Goyle, Goyle let out a horrible yell. Scabbers the rat was hanging off his finger. Sharp little teeth sunk into Goyle's knuckle. Crabbe and Malfoy backed away as Goyle swung Scabbers round and round, howling, and when Scabbers finally flew off and hit the window, all three of them disappeared at once. Perhaps they thought they were more rat lurking among the sweets, or perhaps they heard footsteps because a second later Hermione Granger had come in. What has been going on, she said, looking at the sweets all over the floor, and Ron picking up Scabbers by his tail. I think he's been knocked out, Ron said to Harry. He looked closer to Scabbers. No, I don't believe it. He's gone back to sleep. And so he had. You've met Malfoy before? Harry explained about their meeting in Diagon. Allie. I've heard of this family, said Ron darkly. They were some of the first to come back to our side after you-know-who disappeared. Said they'd been bewitched. My dad doesn't believe it. He says Malfoy's father didn't need an excuse to go over to the dark side. He turned to Hermione. Can we help you with something? You better hurry up and put your robes on. I've just been up in the front to ask the conductor, and he says we're nearly there. You haven't been fighting, have you? You'll be in trouble before we even get there. Scabbers has been fighting, not us, said Ron, scowling at her. Would you mind leaving us while we change? All right, I only came in here because people outside are behaving very childish, racing up and down the corridors, said Hermione in a sniffy voice. And you've got dirt on your nose, by the way. Did you know? Ron glared at her as she left. Harry peered out the window. It was getting dark. He could see mountains and forests under a deep purple sky. The train did seem to be slowing down. He and Ron took off their jackets and pulled on their long black robes. Ron's were a bit short for him. You could see his sneakers underneath them. A voice echoed through the train. We will be reaching Hogwarts in 5 minutes' time. Please leave your luggage on the train. It will be taken to the school separately. Harry's stomach lurched with nerves, and Ron, he saw, looked pale under his freckles. They crammed their pockets with the last of the sweets and joined the crowd thronging the corridor. The train slowed right down and finally stopped. People pushed their way toward the door and out onto a tiny, dark platform. Harry shivered in the cold night air, and then a lamp came bobbing over the heads of the students, and Harry heard a familiar voice. First years, over here. All right there, Harry. Hagrid's big, hairy face beamed over the sea of heads. Come on, follow me. Any more first years? Mind your step now. First years, follow me. Slipping and stumbling, they followed Hagrid down what seemed to be a steep, narrow path. It was so dark on either side of them that Harry thought there must be thick trees there. Nobody spoke much. Neville, the boy who kept losing his toes, sniffed once or twice. Yeah, get your first years, oh Hogwarts, in a second. Hagrid called over his shoulder. Just round this bend here. There was a loud ooh. The narrow path had opened suddenly onto the edge of a great black lake. Perched atop a high mountain, on the other side its windows sparkling, in the starry sky was a vast castle, with many turrets and towers. No more 'n 4 to a boat, Hagrid called, pointing to a fleet of little boats sitting in the water by the shore. Harry and Ron were followed into their boat by Neville and Hermione. Everyone in, shouted Hagrid, who had a boat to himself, right then forward. and the fleet of little boats moved off all at once. Gliding across the lake, which was as smooth as glass, everyone was silent, staring up at the great castle overhead. It towered over them as they sailed nearer and nearer to a cliff on which it stood. "Heads down!" yelled Hagrid at the first boats. Reached the cliffs, they all bent their heads, and the little boats carried them through a curtain of ivy that hid a wide open in the cliff's face. They were carried along a dark tunnel, which seemed to be taking them right underneath the castle, until they reached a kind of underground harbor, where they clambered out onto the rock and pebbles. "Oi, you there? Is this your Toad?" said Hagrid, who was checking the boats as people climbed out of them. "Trevor!" cried Neville blissfully, holding out his hands. Then they clambered up a passageway in the rock after Hagrid's lamp, coming out at last onto smooth, damp grass right in the shadow of the castle. They walked up a flight of stone steps and crowded around the huge oak front door. "Everyone here? You there, still got your Toad?" Hagrid raised a gigantic fist and knocking 3 times on the castle doors. So, our next chapter for next week is Chapter 7, The Sorting